So let's go move on to a bill that, some provisions of the bill that you just got passed. The annual defense bill, the House just passed the annual defense bill. You have provisions to expand fertility coverage for military families, requiring the U.S. military's health care program to cover treatments like IVF and egg freezing. So first of all, why did you consider this necessary? And why was this defense policy bill the right place to advance this legislation?
So we know that military families face higher levels of infertility than your average population. And it makes sense, right? We're asking them to be far away from their loved ones and do really dangerous things in their prime reproductive years. Right now, under TRICARE, the military insurance program, they can only get fertility treatments covered if they can prove a service connection to their infertility, which is really hard to do. And so I've heard from so many service members who basically were faced with three choices, like forgo building a family, pay tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket in order to do it, or leave the military to get a job in the private sector that has health insurance that covers this kind of treatment. And those are not three great options. And you know, I am a 36-year-old woman, so these are the things I talk about with my friends all the time. I froze my eggs. I'm in the process actually of doing another round of freezing my eggs right now. And in talking publicly about that, I actually heard from service members who told me they wish they could do the same thing, but it wasn't available to them. And so, you know, I think everyone should have access to the full range of fertility treatments covered by their insurance. But I think our military community is an important first step and could be a first step that could enable or push or incentivize private insurers to start covering this as well.
How do you explain to colleagues and constituents why access to fertility treatment in this more expansive definition, and not even if you can't directly tie it to military service, why that's important to supporting military families and supporting readiness?
Yeah, so look, we invest a lot of money in our service members training, right? Like millions and millions of dollars in training these folks. And it's really important for us to then be able to retain the best of them to move up the ranks. And if people are leaving the military because they can't build a family and need to make other choices, that's really bad for our readiness. And I think this will also be an important thing when we're doing recruitment, which numbers have been down, that you know, this is an important incentive that people might be interested in joining the military in order to access.
So some people are going to look at this and say, well, that's why women shouldn't be in the military. So just for clarity's sake, this isn't just for women service members, right? This is for spouses of male service members so that they can preserve their fertility or their opportunity to have children while men are on these long deployments or are perhaps exposed to, you know, elements that might compromise their fertility, correct?
That's exactly right. This is service members and their spouses.
You actually talk publicly about, you just said it, about freezing your eggs. Why did you talk about it? And why did you feel comfortable talking about it?
I mean, first of all, I think it's important to destigmatize these things, right? Like, this is what I talk about with my friends all the time. Who's having a baby, who's not having a baby, who's going through IVF, who can't afford childcare. And the idea that this should somehow be shameful, people often think about freezing your eggs as this like sad thing, right? Like, oh, you're sold, you didn't find a partner. But in reality, like, I find it very empowering. Like, I'm able to take agency in the decisions about my life. And, you know, what is a bigger decision than when and how to start a family? And also, like, I work in a body where it's our job to make laws for the whole country. And so many of my colleagues don't understand these technologies, have never heard of them. It's no secret that this is the third oldest Congress in history. And so, you know, for me, another big part of it is that we're not going to make good policy if we're not talking about these issues, because if my colleagues don't even know about them, we're not making policy about them. And this is an area where we need to be making good policy and expanding access.
So what was it like when you first surface this publicly with your colleagues? Like, I know you said with your friends, you talk about this all the time, but what about with your colleagues? Did eyebrows raised or like, a little squeamishness? You know, like, I don't know. Definitely all of that. There's also just, I think, a lot of like and misinformation about fertility out there. Like, so there's a lot of education that has to be done. Like, many of my colleagues
don't really understand how reproduction works, right? Like I had a Republican colleague who wanted to introduce a bill that banned abortion at 6 days, but you actually start counting pregnancy by your last period. So you're literally not even pregnant yet by 6 days. And so like, there's just so much mis and disinformation out there. And yet at the same time, women are feeling so pressured to build a family and have kids by this administration, by others. And, I think it's important that we talk about how that really works and what are the real policies we can do to help people who want to build their families.
It's my understanding that the administration is also considering banning abortion access at VA facilities. I don't know, is that also part of this bill, or can they do that by regulation or by executive order?
This bill only covers active duty service members, but we are working on other efforts to try and combat what they're doing at the VA.
So that isn't set in stone yet?
They can do it by executive order, but we're trying to push back.
Look, it's a conundrum in a way, because one argument might be, look, if on the one hand, you're saying you want to ban abortion because you think that that's wrong, but you won't encourage people to have families or support them in doing so. I don't know if those are related arguments or if you've even heard those linked in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they rolled back the policy that allowed service members to travel in order to get abortions if they were stationed in states that didn't have access to abortion. And so, no, I think it's a huge component of it. Like, it's why I spend so much time thinking about quality of life for our service members. I represent San Diego, the biggest military community in the country. And when you talk to service members, the things they want to talk to you about are like childcare, housing, healthcare, just like everyone else. But we have, these folks are serving our country. We have a responsibility to make sure that they can take care of their families too, not to mention that if they're worried about their families at home, or they're struggling to build their family or to afford it, or can't find childcare, they're not fully focused on the job we need them to do.
Well, in fact, there's a Blue Star Family Survey found that about 1 in 4 service members or their spouses report infertility. Can you just explain, what is it about military service that might make that uniquely true?
That's right. Look, the military population is more likely to be of reproductive age, so that increases just the number in general. But then if you think about military service, it's during your prime reproductive years, right? The majority of people in the military are under 40 years old. And we're asking them, one, to be away from their loved ones during those years on long deployments. But also the things we're asking them to do are really dangerous, right? They're interacting with a lot of chemicals, with explosives, with other kinds of things. And also, in recent years, obviously also been sending them into literal war zones and conflicts. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that they then are having more of these struggles with fertility than the average population because of the things we're asking of them.
But, even President Trump, during his campaign for this term, called for making IVF, in vitro fertilization, more affordable. Do you see any evidence that there's a move in that direction?
We've not seen any evidence of that, although I'm still hopeful because I do think it's something that is really, really important. And while our bill that impacts military service members does not cover everyone, it still covers millions of people. And we have often seen that when TRICARE starts to cover something, private insurers tend to start to follow. And so we're hoping this could be one of those signals.